Hello, Livy. We can work out. Okay. You're funny. Okay. Hey. Oh, I can't hear you. I'm trying to see something. Yeah, I can't hear you. I don't know what to do. Can you hear me? I can't hear anything. I can't hear you. Not sure what to do. I don't know if you can hear me, but I can't hear at all. Let me try. Maybe if I put my headphones on, let me see. Connect my headphones to it. I don't hear anything still. Oh, man.
Okay. Are we good now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. We got that knocked out the way.
Yeah, for a minute there.
So I'm gonna have to do that again because I'm having some technical difficulties. So what I was saying was on tonight's show we have two distinguished guests. We have Marcos Rivera, who should be on soon, and we have Paul. Paul, pronounce your last name. I don't want to
McLaren,
butcher
like car, but just spelled different.
McLaren. We have Paul McLaren and we have Marcos Rivera. Tonight's show will be slightly different, and what we're going to talk about is the current state of New York and the violence and in having an outlet for a lot of the young men. And we'll see what's going on. These two brothers that are on the show tonight are personal friends of mine who are from New York, one from Brooklyn, one from the Bronx, who has grown up in New York throughout the 80s, 90s, early 2000s. They've gotten into trouble. They've had run-ins with the law, and it was difficult to find an outlet and to focus in becoming better men and productive citizens. Tonight, these men will share with you their journey and how fitness and bodybuilding played a role in them becoming better husbands, better fathers, better productive citizens in their communities. They're going to be candid. They were going to share some very frank stories. So certainly be prepared. It's not for the faint of heart, but I do respect them and I do appreciate the time that they are spending right now in sharing this and bringing some of this to light. So I should have Marcos Rivera on in about 2 minutes or so. It does have the link. How you feeling, bro? Came from the gym?
Yeah, I rushed here from the gym. I did a little chest today, a little abs. I did
Yeah.
about 45 minutes of cardio. I'm trying to get back down to that, get that body fat off.
Oh, you know that. You know you got to keep that body fat.
Gotta keep it low, man.
I did my workout. I had mine early on in the day, so I got it knocked out.
Okay. So you did your cardio
Marco
early
should
on
be
in the
here.
workout?
The cardio earlier, bro. I got a Bowflex Max trainer steering right at me right here, so I don't even leave the house. I do it right in the crib.
Okay. Well,
I do it right here.
I have a
What's
full
that?
gym downstairs.
Oh, okay. So you good?
Yeah,
You good to
yeah,
go?
yeah.
All right. I'm gonna wait for Marco.
COVID taught me to improvise.
Oh yeah, that's. Listen, we all know how that affected all of us. Having going through what we did, trying to get into the gym, having all of them closed.
Right.
All right, here the brother comes.
Right.
All right, and here we have the one and only Marco Rivera, Bronx bad boy.
Big Paul, what is
I
up,
am BP
dog?
bodybuilder, Marco Rivera. What's up, brother?
Man, I miss you guys, man. It's been a long time.
Yes, it has. It's been a while. Nice to see you. He's got the glasses on now.
I got the glasses on, man.
Distinguished look.
Yeah, distinguished. Very, very, very distinguished look.
Father time doesn't wait for nobody, man. It kind of gets you, and yeah, I need.
There's nothing wrong with that.
It's all good.
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that at all. So I want to. I have some technical difficulties with my microphone earlier, so I want to start off by telling everyone what we're doing tonight, and tonight's show and what it's focused on. So I will reiterate that tonight for our guests, and rebroadcast this later on, so everyone gets it right from the start. I have noticed, we have all noticed the current state of New York. We have seen the violence within the Bronx and Brooklyn, and it is reminiscent of the 80s, 90s, early 2000s of what this city has looked like. I've seen a lot of lost men that have no outlets and have spare time on their hands and no direction and no leadership. Tonight, these are two friends of mine, two colleagues of mine who are from New York, who have grown up in this city at a time that it wasn't at its best. And through that time has managed to find themselves and find their way after a couple of stumbles along the way. They have become better men, better fathers, better husbands, better leaders in their community. Tonight, they will share with you candid stories on their journey to becoming better people and the way that they use fitness, nutrition, bodybuilding to get there to focus. I want to give the floor to one of you brothers, whoever would like to go first, in telling us a little bit about yourselves and a little bit of background, and then we can start with our interview.
I'll let the king go first.
What's that?
I'll let the king go first.
Oh no, man. Oh man. It's been a long road. It's been an interesting one for me. I'll be turning 50 now in October, and it's been
well. First, you got to tell us where you're from. What part of it? Yeah. We got to represent and tell us what part of the Boogie Down you from.
Boogie Down Bronx, Mott Haven section.
Mott Haven.
Yeah, resided all over the Bronx, but spent a lot of my how would I describe it? My wild days in the Mott Haven section of the Bronx. Wasn't the kindest place to many. You didn't have too many options at that time in that area, and if you drive by there now, you probably still don't. I feel like times have gotten worse in that area, as well as throughout the whole entire city. It's changed drastically. But yeah, from the Bronx, born and raised, and drifted off to different states. Lived in Chicago for a little bit. Lived in California for a little bit. Lived in Puerto Rico for a little bit. So managed to tap into a lot of different types of cultures and and ways of how people like to, people live in different parts of the United States. And I can honestly say that there's none of it had any comparison to the NYC. This was an interesting state to grow up in. You had to learn a lot very, very quickly. And it seems like now, in this day and age, I don't know, man. It's going out the window. A lot of what we knew, what we had to know back then. It's no longer part of the process. It's I don't know. A lot of ignorance out there. It's scary. It's scary what's going on out in the streets, and it's pretty sad to see that so many young men are throwing their lives away and putting themselves at risk every day for pennies of damn near nothing.
Right.
It's sad. It's happening so much. But yeah, kind of getting back to me, man. Turned pro bodybuilder at the age of 35 years old. I was late in the game a little bit. Training has been a big part of my life. One thing about the growing up in the 80s, and I don't know, I found that growing up in the 80s, you had to be very physical. Everything was physical. There was no arcade game. I mean, there was no, I remember Atari 2600 that came out probably kind of late 80s a little bit. But even with that, it was like nobody got lost in that. Everything was physical: baseball, football, basketball, handball. You just had to get out and venture out and be a kid and learn how to use your body to have fun. And
right.
I feel that's a very big part, man, of what's gotten lost here in NYC a lot, if not.
Well, don't give up too much. No, I don't want to give up too much. We're going to talk about what's lost. We're going to go into that. I just wanted to have a little background, the audience know who you gentlemen are. We're going to come back to that.
Cool.
Absolutely. Paul, please give us a little bit background of who you are, where you're from, where'd you grow up, and what you're doing now.
So my name is Paul, as you guys know. I grew up in Brownsville, Brooklyn.
Whoa.
Never ran, never will. That was our motto. I grew up around the likes of Mike Tyson, Riddick Bowe, Carl Kanai. I grew up with all those people, and I grew up in the projects where it was grimy, man. I remember losing my first friend I lost at the age of 14. He got shot like 30 times, and it was because his brother. Fortunate, like I went to school in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, but at the time Bensonhurst, Brooklyn was predominantly Italian. So of course with that came the racial aspect of me going out there, getting bussed out there to school. But I mention that because I met Lou Ferrigno through me going to school in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, because his sister was my teacher.
Well, let's tell everybody who Lou Ferrigno is, those who don't know. Lou Ferrigno. We got a lot of young people on. Everybody's not our age.
So the original Incredible Hulk was, Lou Ferrigno.
Oh, yeah.
So imagine being in the second grade and him coming to your school and him shaking your hand. It felt like this.
Just to give our audience some context, Lou, you have to understand at that time, well, a little bit going back in the 70s, it was Arnold Schwarzenegger and Lou Ferrigno. And if you were from New York, Lou Ferrigno was from Brooklyn. So there was a certain pride that we had in Lou Ferrigno being one of the biggest bodybuilders on the world stage. So when Paul mentions Lou Ferrigno, this is big for us coming from New York to actually meet someone that's in the fitness nutrition field in Lou Ferrigno. So just again to give our audience a little bit of context of who Lou Ferrigno was. And if you're a little bit older, you can remember the original Incredible Hulk was Lou Ferrigno that they paid, and he took a hiatus from bodybuilding to play the Incredible Hulk for some time. So do tell us a little bit more about your background. What's your culture? Paul, you're Haitian, American?
Oh, no, I'm American.
Okay, all right.
100% American. Some people think I'm Dominican. Some people think I'm Haitian, but I'm 100% American. But I I ran the streets, man. So when I was younger, I just ran the streets. I ran the streets in Brownsville. I ran the streets in Flatbush with the Shower Posse. I ran the streets for real when I was young and reckless. But I don't know if you want to go into what made me take the turn. We're going to wait till later, but
But we're going to get there. So again, and I do appreciate that. I do appreciate you sharing that with us. I'd like to start with you, Marco. And the first question, what I want to dive into is give us, take us back to the 90s and what it was like in the Bronx. And tell our listeners, what exactly were you doing at that time in the Bronx? And what was the epiphany that you had in your life that then got you into fitness?
I was trying to become a millionaire in a day in the Bronx back in the 90s. I had
And
this,
again, tell us. I know what that means, but let's tell our listeners what exactly does that mean? Becoming a millionaire in a day. We can't talk cold. Let's call it what it is.
Selling drugs, trying to take every single opportunity that was given to me. I didn't understand the concept of things being illegal. That didn't register. The only thing that registered was were we able to capitalize on money or anything that can happen in a very, very short period of time, which led to a lot of drug dealing. It was a very popular thing in the 90s. It was also it was being part of a camaraderie that allowed that to kind of take place in these neighborhoods. So every neighborhood just generally had their own group of guys, and people opened up spots and they sold drugs, and it was something that I saw money. I saw a lot of love from so-called from friends. It made me feel very special at the time. It
Now
gave
I have
me
to ask you something.
Yeah.
I have to ask you something. I do apologize.
It's all right.
Now you said something interesting. You said you felt love.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of work with a lot of the youth, and the one common denominator that all of them share is that they tell us that it is a lack of love, it is a lack of care that they're getting from in the schools, that they're getting from at home. So when you tell us that you felt love, I want to ask you, was it that you were not getting that love at home, that you turned to the streets and you found what you were looking for?
Yeah, it definitely filled the void, man. I can honestly say, coming up, I didn't understand what was affection. I didn't understand what was appreciation, no matter how good I did in whatever sports or school. Family didn't talk about that. The only thing that was ever part of the conversation, what was wrong. That was the only time anybody ever had to talk to me. This is wrong, that's wrong, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong. That was always the conversation. It was never about what you was doing right. And when it came to the streets, man, it was something I was really good at. And based on doing it right, it financially, it created some. I was able to take care of people. I was able to take care of myself. I was able to feel a level of trust from people, and it allowed people to be around me that were willing to, well, at least I thought back then they were willing to, really make big sacrifices for me. And it gave me this really big sense of love and gratitude around the people that I was surrounded by. And I was willing to do anything for them just as much. And oh boy, how wrong I was. How wrong I was. It was a fantasy. It was a fantasy that when reality hit, it came crumbling down like snow, man. It had no substance. Friends were really not friends at that time. Everything was all pretty, pretty phony, man. It had no substance. It came from nothing. And
Well, what was the epiphany that you had that you came to realize that there was no substance? What was the turning point that happened in your
I went
life?
to prison. I went to prison.
You care to
for 7
share with
years.
us what happened?
I went to
If you
prison
feel
for
comfortable.
7 years. I got caught. Eventually I caught a case that I wasn't able to get out of. It was red-handed, and it was there was several people involved, and everybody just kind of went their ways in the system. And when it came down to first day of court, I had probably 100 people inside the courtroom.
100 people.
100 people, friends and people, everybody just came from everywhere to show support and try to figure out exactly what's going on. And as the court days continue to go through, man, that 100 became 50, and that 50 became 10, and ultimately that sentencing date, it was just my wife and my mom that was there to pretty much send me off into what I call the most important part of my life, which was being incarcerated. That's where I had a lot of time to rectify on my life and the decisions that I've made, and analyze everything that I have done to that point, and why I was there. Because quite often I don't think people really take the time out to think about what was wrong. They just they're just mad they got caught.
Mm-hmm.
You had to go back. I had to really do some gnarly digging in my whole entire life, how it started and where is it I started making some really bad decisions. But yeah, it was a snowball effect over the years. It was a snowball effect that got to that point. But when I got there, I realized one thing, man. I didn't like it. I didn't like it one bit. I didn't like being away from family, and I got to really feel desperation. I don't care what men are out there. You understand what's fear. You fear. There's certain things you just fear. When your freedom is taken away, that it creates this level of fear in your system and in your heart, man. That it makes you really think about certain things in your life, man, and you got to ask yourself, is this something that you don't mind doing for the rest of your life? Because eventually that's what it'll lead to. And I started making some decisions. I started making some internal changes, and that's where bodybuilding started for me. For me, bodybuilding wasn't. I always enjoyed the sport, but it was never reality in my life coming up in the 80s and nothing. There was no gyms nowhere. My buddy probably had some sand weights in his house, but it wasn't something that I came up saying, all right, I want to be the best bodybuilder in the world. It was more of a way of containing myself, developing myself, distracting my mind, making me feel really good, at least for a small amount of time. When I was training, I realized I didn't think about nothing else, which was the greatest feeling in the world at that time, being in prison.
Right.
And not to mention that I felt that, physically, this is something that's very important there, just in case you have, it leads to you having to defend yourself between you and somebody else, man. You want to be strong, and you want to be able to handle yourself,
Absolutely.
And then, yeah.
So I'm gonna come back to you about that, and we're gonna pick up when you went on to becoming a bodybuilder. And I want to give Paul an opportunity to answer the same question. So again, just to set this for our listeners over there, number one, please do give us a like in the comment section, and be sure to subscribe to my channel. That's B Royal Fit, BeRoyalFit. Follow me on IG, Instagram. That's KAYROYAL. give us a comment, give us a like in the like section, and be sure to subscribe to our channel. Tonight we have our two guests, Marcos Rivera and Paul McLaren. Marco from Bronx, New York, and Paul from Brownsville, Brooklyn. We are talking about the current state of New York City and an outlet for a lot of the youth to focus and become better men and leaders in their communities. These two men are sharing candid stories with us on what it was like growing up in the 90s and the early 2000s in New York City. Paul, I would like for you the same thing, and I'll reiterate the question. Please take us through the time, what it was like growing up in the 90s, early 2000s in Brooklyn, in Brownsville, Brooklyn. And again, please be candid, be frank, and tell us some of the things that you were engaged in during that time. And I guess we'll stop at where did you end? Where did it take you from engaging in those activities?
So I want to lay the foundation, before I get to that part. I came from a very abusive household. So I had a lot of pent up anger because my mom was extremely abusive to me, and I didn't have my father around. And so I had a lot of pent up anger. So I channeled that anger towards the streets. I was around drug dealers like Marco, but I didn't see that as real money. That's just how I thought. So what I did was I learned how to buy guns.
One more time, can you say that again? You learned how to
buy guns. Because every drug dealer needs guns. And there's no side when you're selling guns. I can sell it to Spanish, I can sell it to blacks, I can sell it to Jamaicans, I can sell it to Haitians. So I sold guns. And that's what I did to survive. But mostly, I was in the streets, either fighting or shooting or stabbing somebody. And it was mostly because I was an angry person. If you did something small to me, I would react off of it. Or if you did something to someone who I cared about, I made it my responsibility to take care of it. And you have to understand, at the time, I'm 6 feet tall, 150, 140 pounds. But I was always ready to go. I was always on go. And there's pivotal moments in my life that changed my life. One of them is watching somebody put a gun in my mother's face. My mother not backing down from it. And me crying, me being a little boy, and me crying and begging the guy not to shoot my mother in her face. She's mouthing off at the guy. And I'm begging her not to shoot the guy in his face. For the guy not to shoot her. And when the elevator door closed, and my mother looked at me, and she said, "Stop your fucking crying. Get the fuck away from me."
Wow.
And now I live to the 12th floor. That was the longest elevator ride I ever took.
So your mother has the gun in her face, and she's not backing down. And how old were you?
I was about 12, 13 years old.
And you're a 12-year-old, and you're crying, and your mother tells you, stop fucking crying when the gun is pointed in her face.
Right. And she pushes me, and that made me mad for two reasons. Because I was helpless to help my mother. And my mother rejected the love I had for her at the time. So I was angry on both sides, and that's how my life was for a long time.
Wow.
So I was just always angry. And the second time was I got humbled. I don't know if you're familiar with Brooklyn, but Saratoga train station. I'm hanging out with my friends.
Very familiar with Saratoga train station.
I'm hanging out with my friends. We hanging out on the stairs.
The long walk.
Yeah. I got that thing on me.
I just want to give our listeners, just give them a setting so they can understand how it was. Saratoga train station is the 3 train.
3 train.
Last stop on the 3 train. And what it is there is
elevator,
an overpass. There's 2 stairs. There's long stairs on the left. There's long stairs on the right. So when you come off the train and you walk to one end and you get to that far end of the corridor, the lights are out. And what happens is a lot of people are waiting on the other side of the stairs. You don't know what's awaiting you, and those lights are purposely turned off. And when you get to that other side, well, you're going to get whatever's awaiting you. And sometimes
so when you come
it
down
is
the
not
steps,
pleasant.
it's Bessie Head Park. So lights are out. And back then there was factories on the other side of Bessie Head Park. So there's no lights. So you come off that train station, unless you walk in straight up Saratoga, if you walk straight Livonia, straight Livonia, you food. But so me and my boys were just hanging there, drinking our 40s, hanging there. And I had that thing on me, so I'm thinking I'm the man. So I'm sitting the long way on the stairs. So I'm blocking somebody from coming up or down. And this guy, he says, "Excuse me, man." So I said, "Well, take the other fucking stairs, man." He looked at me, and I said, "Take the other fucking stairs." He took 2 steps down, and he pulled out a Mac 10. And said, "What did you say?" So I moved my legs. And if Marco could tell you, when you look in the eyes of a killer, you know a killer when you look at a killer. And I knew if I said anything, he was going to shoot me. Mind you, I got my gun on me, and my 2 boys are with me, and they looking at me, because I'm the only person that carried. So they looking at me like P they just call me Mo. Is Mo going to pull out? And I'm telling you, after that situation happened, I never bullied anybody else again. Because I did it, and I didn't have to do that. I could have just moved out the man's way. I did that because I felt empowered, because I had that thing on me, not knowing that he had something bigger than what I had. And he was more angry that day than I ever could have been. So I watched the world. He walked up the step backwards. And you know how long those stairs are. He walked up that whole thing backwards with the Mac 10 pointing straight at us. So that changed my life. So for me, my 90s is all over the place a little bit, because I was in the streets. I had 1 foot in the streets, 1 foot in doing other things. So I used to train at this gym called the Paddington. And Desmond Miller used to train there. I've always been around bodybuilders. I used to always train. And Heather Foster used to train there. She had 2 training partners. So I've been around bodybuilders. But if you ask Desmond, I was ignorant. I would work out for an hour, play basketball full court for 2 hours, and then shoot at somebody in the parking lot when the game was done. So nobody liked dealing with me. So when I told Heather Foster and them I wanted to be a bodybuilder, they didn't want to deal with me because I was a knucklehead. I was that guy known for shooting at people in the parking lot. And then I'm not proud of it. I'm ashamed of it. But it was a product of me being in pain and wanting to inflict pain on other people.
I want to get in here and say something. Gentlemen, I had a conversation with someone last night, and they did, there's an African proverb, and I'm just multitasking for our viewers that are listening on Instagram, on IG, and for those that are on YouTube and Facebook. There's an African proverb, and that proverb is, a child will burn down an entire village just to feel its warmth. And these stories that these gentlemen are sharing with us tonight, Marcos Rivera and Paul McLaren, the one thing that they have in common is that the 2 of them were not getting love. They were not getting attention from a young age, and they were being neglected and not being loved. And it just goes to show you the path that put them on, that they sought in order to get love from other outlets that many times is not positive. I want to say that again, many times they're not positive. So when we see the current state of the city, when we see some of the things that's going on in the Bronx, in Brooklyn, and now parts of Queens and Harlem, we should understand that no, I'm not saying give these youth a pass and not hold them accountable and then put them on the right path. But I am saying that two things can be true at the same time. And what we are dealing with is a lot of youth that have no outlets. They go to the schools, they are not feeling loved. And when they leave school and they come home, they are not feeling loved. And Paul just articulated to us that his mother was extremely abusive to him. So for our listeners at home, could you fathom or could you imagine your mother having a weapon pointed in her face and not backing down and having their son cry? And afterwards, you as the son being yelled at and told, stop fucking crying. It's amazing that he has turned out to the productive man and husband that he is today. Would you like to share with us, Paul, any other deep stories or turning point or epiphany that you had that, other than, you know, the Mac 10 story, of course?
In 96 or 97, I went on tour. I started working for Queen Latifah.
In what fashion was you working with Queen Latifah when you went
I
on
was
tour?
a road manager. Her
Really?
company called Flavor Unit. So I worked with the Food Shakers was the first act I worked with Shaquille O'Neal, Can We Rock, What's Up Doc. I was out there with them. And I got to see the world. I got to see that every hood in every state is exactly the same. Now you have to understand, this is during the time when Little Rock, when Arkansas was the gang capital of the world. So my first visit to Arkansas, I got to see what violence really was. Like, we had violence in New York, don't get me wrong. But the violence that I saw in Arkansas made me cringe. And it made me realize that I'm not alone in being in pain.
Right.
Because there's an incident, we'll go into it later, when I almost got shot in Arkansas over me wearing an Emmitt Smith jersey that Emmitt Smith gave me and signed for me. And I have this jersey on, walking to the tour bus with a female, and the guy pulls out a shotgun and asks me what set I claim. This is the 90s. In New York, there was no such thing as gangs. So I don't know what to say. So I show the keys, and I'm like, I'm going on the bus. So then I get on the bus, and I'm giving the girl stickers, CDs, shirts. And I'm like, yo, we got to get out of here. We got to go. She was like, we can't leave. And I was like, why? What the fuck you mean we can't leave? But I need to back up, because before we left the club, I asked her, was she gangbanging? Because we had did tours where we would speak in prisons. So I knew what the tattoos looked like. And she had a tattoo. But I wouldn't think a female was gangbanging. I never heard of that before. So next thing she says to me is, those are the guys that killed my boyfriend 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
You have to understand, Kay, I look out the window of the tour bus. The dude that pulled out the shotgun on me, he went back in the car and sat down. He didn't leave. So there's no way I was leaving. So then the group come back on the tour bus, and I'm like, yo, you gotta get this. And I call out her name off the bus. And she's crying and begging us not to take her off the bus. So the tour bus driver had to take her to her house. If you know anything about a tour bus, it's hard to navigate a tour bus through regular streets.
Wow.
And he had to take her home. But if we fast forward, I found out years later that she got killed 3 weeks later. So I had these pivotal moments that changed my life. And I'm going to say music industry changed my life. I had a love-hate relationship with music industry. I loved it because it saved me from the streets. I hated it because you make other people money. You make other people rich. And you got to put your life on hold. But that's a whole nother story.
I'd like to focus more on the fitness bodybuilding background. And normally for our viewers that are listening, we normally give our fitness science background, talk diabetes, BMI, cholesterol, blood pressure. But tonight is a special show that I wanted to have dedicated to addressing some of the violence that is occurring in the city and the youth, and really have some older individuals who escaped that and what they did and used as an outlet to refocus their lives. Uh, Bodybuilding, if you don't know, is a very disciplined sport. It is a focused sport. It is a lonely sport. And I'll just set the stage. I'm saying, me personally, um, I chose bodybuilding not to get in my own life story because I want to keep it about these gentlemen. I chose bodybuilding because I knew that I can control the way that I look. I knew that there was essentially no one else other than a judge that could stop me from looking the way that I wanted. Either I was going to get up and do the cardio, either I was going to get up and eat the food and do what I had to do in the gym, and nothing else could stop me. Now, and I want to focus on why that was important, because it was essentially a control factor for me, that I wasn't at the whim of anyone else. I could control my life. I could do what I wanted to do. It gave me focus. It gave me purpose. And let's keep it 100. Let's keep it real. It's always a plus when people are looking at you in a certain way because you don't look like the average person. And if you're not familiar with fitness and bodybuilding, a lot of bodybuilders that we will have on in the future have had a troubled past. And we will have some on that will share that with us, and they will tell us why they chose to get into bodybuilding and fitness. What was the reason that drove them to that? I'd like to go back to Marco and expand on that. Why bodybuilding, and what did it do for you in detail, specifically in terms of giving you focus? Did it give you purpose and put you on a different path? So why bodybuilding?
It gave me control. To sum it all up, it gave me the power of control. All my life prior to that, everything was always outsourced. It was always me giving, and nothing really coming back. And coming up, you think the best clothes, the best cars, the best jewelry, the best of anything other than your health is the prized possession. And bodybuilding for me, it just gave me the opportunity to really learn me, which is something I never really took the time out to do.
Now, elaborate on that. When you say learn me, what do you mean when you say learn me?
My capabilities, my level of intelligence, because a lot of people feel that intelligence is something, it's an academic thing, and to a certain degree, obviously yes, but it allowed me to really do some searching within myself, and that's where I started to learn that my capabilities were a lot more than what I even imagined them to be. It taught me to really appreciate and love myself. It gave me some time to manifest my emotions, learn the level of appreciation to a lot of things that were already in my life, and at that time I didn't, it meant nothing. And bodybuilding allowed me to really enjoy very, very minute things. I did spend a lot of time by myself, but to sum it all up, man, it wasn't until I started bodybuilding that good things started to happen in my life. From meeting amazing people, to obviously changing my whole entire lifestyle. Because to be a great bodybuilder, you have to make a lot of adjustments. You You can't be standing on a corner and expect to be, in the top, or even let alone in the mix of a competitive sport, of the competitive sport of bodybuilding. And also, it allowed me to grow. And I'm not just talking about the physical aspect. Mentally, emotionally, I had to do a lot of searching and tie it all in, to be able to create that superficial, muscular, what everybody's chasing, to the fullest. And also mentioning that I think that's probably the biggest thing that's missing now in a lot of bodybuilding. People are
And
not.
what is that you feel that's missing now in bodybuilding? You would say it's missing.
People just want to get right there, not understanding that there's a process. There's a process to being a great bodybuilder, and that's why we're all here now, because that process is what allowed us to reach kind of like that same destination of gratitude, of greatness, of just trying to be the very best role models, individuals that I possibly can be.
Right.
I walk every day trying to make everybody happy. I want everybody smiling. I want everybody feeling great, because that is exactly what I feel. I feel now, and to just to even think about my lifestyle and what it was, it's my heart starts racing through the roof. I get the jitters, man, and I can't believe that it all started from there. But yeah, bodybuilding it saved my life. Bodybuilding saved my life. As
Is
soon
there
as yeah.
anyone instrumental in your life along that journey from transitioning from the streets to bodybuilding that you'd like to acknowledge, and what role did they play in your life?
Oh, my wife. My wife.
Let's
Yeah.
say a name. You got to
Yeah.
give her flowers.
My
Let's shout
wife,
her out.
Josiah Robles. She was. She allowed me to grow. She allowed me to understand what it is to be a man, um, what it is to be loved unconditionally, and she showed me what it is to be supported by somebody who's fully committed to to a person such as me, and it changed me. It was so strong and so pure that I had to do a lot of rearranging, just for the sake of out of the sake of gratitude of what is it she was able to give me. She basically broke me down with love, um, and then bodybuilding coming in there was the building blocks
That's
to.
that. There's a saying: "Love conquers all."
Yeah, man, and she did that. She did that from the pure, from the purest, at the purest form. I'm not talking about money. I'm not talking about gifts. I'm just talking about, when somebody just looks at you, man, and you just know that, oh man, this individual is really, really, truly, I can trust with my life, and she was that person, and she never gave up on me. She hung in there, and the adjustments continued to take place and take place and take place, and we eventually landed in a place in our lives where it became something very, very special. And then and I can honestly say that's when I really felt that I reached that point of what it is to be a man, to be a responsible, good husband, good father, and now in these days, a good mentor, and the gratitude is so great that this is something that I feel I have to give to as many people as I possibly can that's surrounding me, and uh, it's been fun. It's been great, um, and this is something I do every single day. Yeah.
I'd like to get in here, and again, I'd like to thank these two gentlemen for sharing their story with us. We're talking with Marco Rivera and Paul McLaren here on Be Royal Fit. Please do subscribe to my channel. Follow me on Instagram, KAYAROYAL. That's Kaya Royal on Instagram. Please do subscribe. That is Be Royal Fit on Instagram or Facebook. You can find my handle there. I just want to touch on something briefly, and Marco had shared something with us, and he was talking about his journey growing up in Mont Haven section of the Bronx and what it was like. And Paul McLaren is here sharing with us what it was like growing up in Brooklyn, in Brownsville, Brooklyn. And Marco had said something that I wanted to expand on and was very important in my opinion. And to do a little contrast, Paul shared with us a story of his mother being abusive and not feeling the love. And we're going to let Paul expand on that later on. But Marco gives us a contrast of him not feeling love, essentially always being criticized, and nothing was ever good enough. And this is for the men. His story, his candid story, is an example of what the femininity, the warmth, the care, the love from a woman, and what it can do to get a man on the right path. Patience, the love, and how it has turned him into a better husband, a better father, a better man, a better bodybuilder, a better productive citizen, and a better member of his community. And on this show, we talk about Be Royal Fit. We talk about the gym. We talk about science. We talk about the body. But we also discuss the mental. We are also talking about our communities, things that are taboo, things that we don't want to necessarily address. And we're tying all of these things together. And I can't tell you how much I do appreciate these brothers coming on here tonight and sharing these very candid stories with us and what it means and how their lives have been drastically affected with that. So I'd like to hand it over to Paul. And just to pick up where we're going is I'd like to ask, Paul, why bodybuilder? Why the gym in terms of being that element, being that tool that allowed you to focus and transition, and what did bodybuilding mean for you?
Bodybuilding was, well, first the gym itself was a place for me to place my rage, my anger, my pain. You know, I tell people now that my body is a manifestation of pain. That's what people don't understand, is that they see you big, they see you lift these weights, but it's a lot of pain that's hidden in these muscles. And I'm sure Marco could, attest to that. Bodybuilding, I felt like bodybuilding would help give me structure and help me understand how to respect myself. I knew I didn't respect myself, but I didn't know how to go about getting there to respect myself, because I didn't have anyone around me telling me what not to do. I was so hot-headed, everybody was afraid to tell me I was doing something wrong. It wasn't until I met IFBB pro Rosemary Jennings. She took me under her wing, and she taught me how to be not just a bodybuilder. She was also trying to teach me how to be a good person. She seen the good person in me when I didn't even see it there myself. So most of the time at our training sessions, she trained me hard as hell, but she also tried to instill in me redeeming qualities and how to be a productive person without wanting anything in return. If you want to call it like real love, being I didn't get love from my mother, I never thought any woman would ever really love me. Because if you can't get love from the first person who birthed you, no one's ever going to really love you. That's how I looked at it. And I went through a majority of my life that way, which allowed me to shut off parts of myself, which made me, and I think this is what makes these kids now as violent as they are, because they're able to shut off parts of themselves because they don't cry. They don't do things. We're taught not to cry. We're taught not to have emotions. Bodybuilding, you're going to go through a rare emotions. I didn't know that getting into it, but that's what happened. And I enjoyed feeling again. So bodybuilding helped me feel, whether it was the pain, whether it was fatigue, whether it was the camaraderie with other men and women in the sport. It made you feel again. And once I started getting into bodybuilding, I started to feel like I was a part of something. I was a part of a collective where we all had a common goal. It's like it felt good to walk in the gym and see someone like Marco, and you look across the gym, and that's what we do to each other.
Many times.
Right. That's on sight. We respect you. We understand what it takes to be there. And once I experienced that, I didn't ever want to let it go. And it wasn't until I got diagnosed with a heart disease that I had to pull back and not pursue bodybuilding the way I wanted to pursue bodybuilding. And that broke my heart because I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't gamble. My vice is weights. You take that away from me, I don't know what I'm gonna do with myself. Because I don't want to go back to being a person I have a place to channel my anger. Weights are therapy for me. Right. It's not about vanity. It's not about how it makes you look. It's about how it makes me feel inside. You know, I don't want to pivot, but that's why, like, look at somebody like Ronnie Coleman, with all of the surgery he's had, and people criticize him and say, why does he still do it? I understand why he does it. Because it makes him feel a certain way. That's therapy for a lot of us. A lot of us won't say it because it's not cool. It's not man enough to say, I'm in pain. We're not supposed to, as men, we're not supposed to be in pain. We're not supposed to cry. We're not supposed to say, I'm not supposed to get on here and say, my mother was abusive to me. I'm not supposed to say those things because we don't create a safe space for ourselves as men to have these conversations with each other. And what's the manifestation of that? These young men running these streets and young women running these streets acting on that. We have to create a safe space where it's okay to cry. It's okay to say I'm afraid. It's okay to say that you're vulnerable. No one does that anymore. I can't go and say, I'm sad, I feel depressed. Because I'm afraid I'm being looked at a certain way. I'm being hypothetical because I'm talking openly, so I'm not really afraid of that. But the average young man, when you look at him in the street and he has a gun in his waist, he's not angry. I try to tell people, before a person gets angry, they're in pain first. That pain manifests itself into anger. All we see is the anger because we're taught to show outwardly anger and not show pain. But if you can look past that anger, you'll get to the root of the problem, which is always pain. And bodybuilding for me ridded me of that pain for a period of time.
You know, we speak about as men and experiencing pain. And I remember Method Man was talking about a story where he had apologized to Beyonce and Destiny's Child. And the reason why he apologized is because he had saw them at backstage after a show. And he said, hey ladies, how you doing? He had showed them love, and they kept walking. And his response was, oh, fuck you, you bougie ass bitches. You're not talking to me. Y'all think y'all all that. Who the fuck y'all bitches think y'all are? And he lost it, and he wilded out on them. Well, years later, come to find out that they didn't hear him when he had said something. And Meth has shared something very candid, and what he said was, I was a miserable bastard for a long time. And I hated myself so much that I would react to anyone that I felt or I deemed as disrespectful to me. If you're not from New York, I don't necessarily know how they do it around other parts of the country. But here's how it goes if you're from New York. And Marco, I'm pretty sure it's the same in the Bronx. I know it's like this in Brooklyn, growing up in Flatbush, Brooklyn. If you walk by someone and you make eye contact for too long, the first thing is how it goes back in the eyes. The fuck you screwing me for?
What up?
Is there a problem? If you just make eye contact and that stare is too long. Now we have to ask ourselves, why in the world would another man automatically perceive that another man looking at him for longer than a split second is threatening?
Because he fears that you see his pain.
And that's what Jay-Z spoke about. Giving that same example.
That's what he fears. When you look at me long enough, you're gonna see my pain. Because I can't hold your gaze. Because if you catch me daydreaming, and I find you looking at me, I'm gonna automatically assume you saw my pain.
It's a high level of insecurity, man.
Yeah.
Deep down inside, so many of us, we grow up so broken and so missing so many parts that we're just a big ball of insecurities. And that stare is what exposes that insecurity. And this is where, the cover up, the let me dive in first. Let me say something. Let me defend that. Because for me, I don't want to believe that I am that insecure, which is what most of us tend to don't even understand or don't want to even perceive as a level of fear, being scared, and therefore having this image and this persona in such tough cities and tough neighborhoods. It's the last thing you want to show. But deep down inside, it's a huge insecurity. We're exposed, and I'm a victim of that, man. It happens all the time, and this is why I tell most of my friends, I walk around with my head down, man. I keep my chin down. I'm a Mr. Excuse me. Excuse me. I hold the door for everybody, and it's only, but that also comes from a healing that's occurred where there is no insecurity in that sense, and I can do that and feel perfectly fine within my day. And I think there's a big confusion now with the young crowd out there. They're missing a lot. They're missing a lot, and you can see how it's only going to get worse because there's a big void in between them and what needs to start happening in that process. And when you don't catch it early enough, you just have masses of these young guys and girls that eventually are going to have to hit a brick wall.
It can certainly spiral out of control.
Yeah,
and
that's why so many of them are dying, and it's scary because that is exactly what we're battling with every single day in the streets now. Just going out and just trying to be a normal citizen and just kind of doing your thing, the right thing, and it's become extremely challenging to just do the right thing. But I believe it can get turned around. I believe it's going to take a lot of individuals such as us, a lot of people start stepping up their game and just kind of doing their part within their surroundings. And if many of us can start doing this in our surroundings, I believe we can start making changes, as well as, you know, when you're continuing to talk about bodybuilding and how this is something that can get integrated into society. Because if you could just take your mind off of what's been keeping you down just for a small period of time. And this is where I came up with conviction bodybuilding, as you knew in the past. If you can just get a young kid in the gym, in the bodybuilding gym, right, to, let's just say, give him free couple of months in the gym and give him some supplements and whatnot, and I guarantee you that for that very moment, or for that time, they will at least have an opportunity that's not in a prison setting to start actually doing things and thinking for themselves, for even if it's for and that is such a tasteful thing to do that. And that's what captivated me when I started training. It allowed me to look in the mirror and start talking to myself and analyzing my life. And yo, man, you know what? This is something I really, really enjoyed. How can I continue to do this? And this is where a lot of the changes will start kind of breaking upon, from where you hang out to what you eat to how much time you spend at home, how much time you spend in the streets, the relationships you're with, the people that's surrounding you, and
Right.
and having a small interchange in that, you know.
I agree with that. I like to say something. In our communities, in Black and brown communities, we tend to look at therapy as being a white people thing. That's white folks thing. Therapy, talking to somebody. That's not what we do. We're always told to suck it up. We're always told to handle it, as you heard from the examples that we gave earlier. Pain is passed down from mother to daughter, from father to son, from mother to son, from father to daughter. Pain, if it's not stopped, can manifest. Pain can destroy generations of people. You have those generational curses. If you don't tackle your pain, if you don't address your pain, it can spiral out of control. So if you're watching, know that therapy doesn't mean that you're weak. Therapy means that you're strong, because you are willing to acknowledge, you are willing to admit that you need help. And life can beat you down, and it's okay, because you're going to get back up. I'd like to thank these gentlemen for being on the program. We're not done yet. I just want to plug again, my Instagram is Kaya Royal, KAYAROYAL. Follow me on Instagram. Please do be sure to subscribe to my channel. That is Be Royal Fit. We are on every Thursday, 9:30 p.m. We might change that date because football is starting soon, and you can't compete with that on Thursday night football. But we will certainly put that out there for the time that when we start on Thursdays, 9:30. At this point, there's a segment of the show, and it's called 10 Reps. 10 Reps with Big K. 10 reps, and 10 reps is 10 questions. 10 thought-provoking questions we have for these gentlemen. This is not rehearsed. They don't know what the questions are, and we're just going to present them with the questions. We will give each one an opportunity to answer the questions. Gentlemen, are you ready for 10 reps?
Ready.
All right. Who'd like to go first?
Go ahead, Paul.
King go first.
Go ahead, Paul.
they put it back on each other. All right, I'm gonna pick one. All right, Marco. Here we go. Marco. Sure. What is your biggest fear back then? Growing up in New York in the 90s, what was your biggest fear back then?
Dying in the streets or going to prison for life. That was my biggest fear.
Paul. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, brother.
No. It's just that's what I saw. You know, I saw people doing lots and lots and lots of years in prison. People dying for nothing. Absolutely. I've as a matter of fact, you say when you tapped into all it takes is one stare from a,
Right.
I've seen people die behind that stare.
Over a stair.
Over a stair.
Over a stair. I'm
over
telling you right
leaning on
now.
my car. Or the simplest of things, or you stepped on my shoe. Yeah, that was a reality that was out there at that time at a high level. And I never thought to change my environment, so I always felt like at some point I was going to land in one of those foxholes, and eventually see the downside to one of those days.
Well, we're here, and you're not in one of those foxholes, so we're
Absolutely
proud
not.
that you're here with us. Paul, what is your biggest fear? What was your biggest fear back then?
Getting shot and dying in the street like a dog. I used to have nightmares about it.
As Marco.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Question number 2. And anyone can take it. Any one of you gentlemen can take it.
I'll take it
Whoever
first. Since Marcos did the first one, I'll take this one first.
What is your biggest fear today?
Oh, I should let Marco take that one first. All right.
Not waking up beside my wife and my daughters. That's you know, I work really hard in taking care of myself, and the thought of me not being able to be there causes an extreme panic in my soul, in my heart, and yeah, that's my biggest fear, not being able to be there for them from this point forward.
For me, it's dying before I can leave the proper legacy behind for my daughter to be proud of. I'm in the process of trying to be the best version of myself. And I've been on this road for years. And I think every year I get better and better at it. I wanted my daughter to be proud of her father when I'm gone. I want enough people to tell her wonderful things about me when I'm gone. That's my biggest fear, that I don't get a chance to do it enough before I leave this earth.
Well, you're doing it, my man.
Thank you, man.
Rep, we're on our 3rd rep. If you could go back in time, what year would you travel to and why?
Ooh.
Oh, man, 1983, I believe. I got beat up in the schoolyard by this white guy because I really thought that black people could all beat all white people. Just because I was black, I thought I had to win.
Wait, say, you hear what he's saying again? Paul is. We asked, the question was, if you could go back in time, what year would you travel to and why? And Paul told us 1983 because he got beat up by a white boy in the schoolyard, and he was of the belief that black people could beat up all white people.
That's great.
Now I want to explain why. Because
okay, and why?
Because of this ass whooping I got served, I asked my mother to change my school. Had I stayed in the school in Bensonhurst, my life would have taken a different course as it being transferred to a school closer to my house, which made everything.
Right.
Wow, awesome.
I got my ass whooped though, like real bad.
Sometimes ain't nothing wrong with a good ass whipping.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
New York, man.
All right, Marco, your turn. Rep number 3, baby.
That's a pretty gnarly question, man. I would probably say late 70s, early 80s.
You got to pick a year. We need a year.
All right, let's just say 1980.
1980, and why 1980?
I was a very good baseball player, and I remember my father taking me and training me and he helped me become a very good baseball player. And it was extremely fun to play baseball at that time. And it was somewhere around there where I realized there was a change in him. And after that change, he was no longer there the way he used to be. And later on in life, that's when I learned that the drugs started to really take effect in his life, causing him to just fully disengage from family and just run off and do his thing, and leaving me to venture out in the world on my own and learn about streets in the 80s by myself on my own, which is where I feel there was that's where things started to just kind of really rearrange what I felt could have possibly been a future for me. Yeah, so I would say 1980, before he started bugging out with the drugs and
Right.
became a different man. And, I remember him even as a father figure. I felt he was very different prior to that. Always took care of himself, the hair, the cologne, always fly, body, running in the track, always doing his thing. And then all of a sudden, that just went to something I didn't want to be. And
I understand.
caused a lot of changes, yeah.
All right, we're gonna have to bang these reps out. We underneath the bench, all right? We got time.
Yep.
We're running out of time. So we on the fourth rep. And this is the cliche question, but here you go. If you could go back in time, what advice would you give your younger self?
Wow. Yeah.
Whoever wants to grab it, you got to get under the barbell.
Invest
Love
in Apple,
yourself,
man. invest in. Remember Mac, Macintosh. Yeah,
Invest in Macintosh.
yeah.
Paul.
Apple computers.
Love yourself more. That's what I would tell myself.
Love yourself. All right, we on rep number 5. We halfway there. If you could meet anyone living or dead, who would it be and why?
My brother. He passed away in 2005. 2005. Way too early. He was in his 30s. Same thing. Drugs. Drugs overwhelmed his life, as it did me as well at that time. And I managed to, I managed to figure some things out back then, and bodybuilding was coming into my life at that time. So yeah, my brother, man, I would definitely, I would make a much better effort in trying to get back to him, and because oftentimes people get lost nowadays, and it's so easy to just be like, man, he's wilding out, he's over there, he's bugging out, he's over there. You can't control him. He's doing his thing until they're no longer here, and then you wish you could be a part of, well, a bigger part of what possibly could have been, hopefully, a turnaround in his life. Yeah, my brother.
You're up, Paul.
A gentleman named Rula. He was a drug dealer that grew up in my neighborhood that changed my life because he showed me what not to do. And I was, I wish I could go and just thank him. I never got a chance to thank him.
Rep number 6. How would you want to be remembered?
As kind, spiritual, loving, loyal. That's how I want to be remembered.
I want people to know the mistakes I made, because without that, I don't think you really fully appreciate where I'm at. But if there's one word to sum it up, I wanna be remembered as the most loyal person you would have ever come across.
If you were a ghost, what area would you haunt and why?
That's a good one. Wow. What area would I haunt?
Whew.
Yeah. Damn.
That's a hard one.
Yeah, it is. Because I got to think about somebody I don't like too much. Unless I don't want to haunt my wife. Which area would I haunt? Probably the gym. Probably run around throwing little 2.5 dumbbell plates around and scaring the shit out of people or something.
So you want to come back and start fit and haunt everybody?
As a matter of fact, let me rephrase. Let me say that again. I'll definitely come and haunt Star Fitness.
And we all know why. We all know why.
Star Fitness and you know who. That would be my pleasure.
Paul, same question.
I think I would haunt my siblings, just because I'm a jokester. So I would just mess with them.
All right, rep number 8. We're almost done. Is there anything you wish would come back into fashion?
Oh man.
Question is there anything that they wish would come back into fashion?
Wow.
Sheepskins, baby.
Sheepskins.
Sheepskins with the gloves and the matching hat.
Carl Kanai, man. I was a big Carl Kanai fan.
Carl Kanai with the big metal plate on it.
That's
Carl
right.
Kanai. For those of our listeners that just joined in, we have Marcos Rivera. We have Paul McLaren here on Be Royal Fit. Please do subscribe to my channel, Be Royal Fit, on YouTube and Facebook. My IG is KAYROYAL. Be sure to give us a like in the like section and subscribe to my channel, Be Royal Fit. We are on every Thursdays, 9:30 p.m. And we might change that due to football season, but we are finishing up with our segment called 10 Reps with Big K, where we have 10 questions for these gentlemen, thought-provoking questions that some of these answers are quite funny, to say the least. We're almost done. We have question rep number 9, and that is, what would you change about yourself if you could? So that's currently. What would you currently change about yourself if you could?
My arthritis.
Arthritis,
man. If not, I'll still be rocking on that stage. I'll be there till the wheels fall off, and because of my injuries. Yeah.
I would change my heart because the same reason, and I would still be able to rock on stage too. So I would change my heart.
Okay. All right, lightweight buddy, last rep. Here we go. This is a snowball.
Yeah.
What is your favorite family vacation, gentlemen?
Favorite family vacation?
Favorite family vacation. Last rep.
I'm trying to think where we.
Trip to Africa. That's mine.
Favorite family vacation. Paul's answer is trip to Africa, and
I've been. I've taken my family. That's where this is from.
Where'd you go?
South Africa.
South Africa?
Yeah.
Okay.
Beautiful time. It's beautiful. I stayed in a hunting lodge, so I got to see a lot of animals, and I got to see the whole of South Africa.
For me, just
Marco,
we as a family, we do a lot of cruises. So probably the last cruise that we went to, we visited all the tropical islands, and that was probably a very memorable moment. Other than just going to the beach every weekend, man, for me, those are like these little daily vacations that we take all the time, and We do the simple things and enjoy it very, very much. Very much, yeah.
Okay, and that is 10 reps with Big K. And that will conclude our show. I'd like to just say a couple of words and give thanks. We are here tonight on Be Royal Fit with Big K. And I'd like to thank our guest tonight. That is Paul McLaren. That is Marco Rivera, IFBB bodybuilder, top MPC bodybuilder Paul McLaren. These are friends of mine. One representing Brownsville, Brooklyn. The other Bronx bad boy representing the Boogie Down Bronx, Marco Rivera. These are friends of mine. We have had many fun times in the gym. We have had many fun times at shows, competing in the gym. A lot of camaraderie, a lot of friendly competition in bodybuilding, fitness, and competing. Here on Be Royal Fit, the purpose of our show, what we are doing is we are taking fitness, nutrition, and helping to make our communities literate regarding nutrition, regarding what to eat, what to put in their body. In terms of being royal fit, we are not just talking about lifting weights in the gym. We are talking about what you eat in the stores. We're talking about mental health. We're talking about things that affect our communities, as you just heard tonight. So being fit is not just on the outside, it is on the inside. It is in your mind. We're looking to build a bigger platform and bring this knowledge specifically to black and brown communities for reasons that we just discussed tonight, where mental health is very taboo. Many of us run away from therapy, and we know in our communities, if anyone needs therapy, it is people. Looking at the current state of New York and what we have historically been subjected to. I'd like to thank these gentlemen again for their time. And we will next week, we will try to have on a very, very special guest. And we're dealing, two special guests actually. And we're dealing in the topic of child autism and bringing attention to child autism. And that's going to be a very special show as I drink out of my daughter's Peppa Pig cup. You saw that earlier. I don't know if you said it.
I didn't want to say nothing.
On the Peppa Pig, I took it from my daughter. She left it in here and said I had to drink out of the cup. So I'd like to thank you, gentlemen, and the time that you spent. Shout out yourself. Plug your Instagrams and talk about what you're doing. I know you're boxing, Marco. Paul, talk about what you're doing. Plug yourselves right now. Shout out your Instagram.
Yeah, IG Bronx Bad Boy Original. We're right at. Obviously, bodybuilding has been something that I'm no longer pursuing competitively. I still get into the gym and train a little bit, but as of right now, we're working with a lot of fighters, a lot of youth. Hopefully, we'll be able to develop some world champions coming out of the Bronx. And that's where I'm devoting a lot of my time, which is out of John's Boxing Club here in Haviland. And we're also opening up a bodybuilding gym in Mamaroneck, New York, which is called Pro Body Fitness. So that's at Pro Body Fitness on IG. Follow us, give us a shout, and hopefully I can see you guys coming in through the door sometime in October, which should be our grand opening. 3 floors, 10,000 square feet, and I'm looking to be the best gym here in Westchester.
Thank you, Marco. Paul.
Yeah, my IG page is PMCCLARIN. Well, I still train people. I train people all over the United States, actually. I train a lot of professional athletes, a lot of celebrities. I train several diplomats from several countries. I own a flower shop, and I have a book.
Whoa. I know this is the end. Hold on a second. I know this is the end of the show. He just slipped that in there. I'm training celebrities. I'm lifting weights. By the way, I own a flower shop. Wait a minute. Real quick, tell us about the flower shop.
That's great.
So I've owned the flower shop for about 5 years now. We do all the flowers for, if you go to any Ralph Lauren event any Ralph Lauren store. We do all the flowers for Ralph Lauren. We do flowers for all celebrities all over New York City. It's not a big deal to me. It's just something I do to keep the lights on. See? You see the lights? They got to stay on.
All right. All right.
But,
a flower
I have
shop.
a book.
I didn't know that. I was cool. I didn't know.
Most people don't know. I'm very humble. So, I just try to keep most things to myself. But I have a book coming out. It's currently being edited about my life because, it's going to be six different books, six different stages of my life. I also do speaking engagements where I try to help the youth understand the violence is not the way, and the streets is not the way. So these are things that I'm currently working on.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Again, I do appreciate the contributions that you have given tonight, and hopefully we will have more people that will tune into the rebroadcast of this program. Again, you've been listening to Be Royal Fit here every Thursdays, 9 p.m. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, as usual, we are signing off. That was a great show. I thank these gentlemen so much for their time and their contributions. And we are going to sign off. Be Royal Fit every Thursdays, 9 p.m. We're out.